I want to also speak to Mr. Putin's remarks this morning. You know, America and its allies are not going, let me emphasize, are not going to be intimidated, by Putin and his reckless words and threats. He's not going to scare us, and he doesn't, or intimidate us.
Повторю еще раз тем, кто понимает только по-русски. Хотите жить? Бегите.
Hey, what's going on, folks? We have a wild show for you today. So Putin is annexing parts of Ukraine, saying anybody who attacks the new part of Russia will be treated as if they're attacking Russia. The Western world calls it illegal. Little Zelensky is trying to join NATO, which is a massive step, and had these powerful words to say to people in Russia.
Повторю еще раз тем, кто понимает только по-русски. Хотите жить? Бегите. Хотите жить? Сдавайтесь в плен. Хотите жить? Боритесь. Боритесь на своих улицах и за свою свободу. У вас и так все забрали. Или у кого-то из вас есть нефтяные вышки, есть дворцы, есть виноградники, а может у вас есть яхты или какой-то банк. Вы за что вообще боретесь? У вас есть только кредиты, что-то вечером пожрать и теперь мобилизация. Боритесь за свое. Не лезьте на нашу землю, в нашу душу и в нашу культуру. Слава Украине!
For those listening on podcasts, he said, they took everything from you, or maybe you have got your own oil rigs, palaces, vineyards, or maybe yachts, your own bank. What are you fighting for? All you have is loans, telling them to run if they want to stay alive. Here's what President Joe Biden had to say about Russia's actions.
I want to also speak to Mr. Putin's remarks this morning. You know, America and its allies are not going, let me emphasize, are not going to be intimidated by Putin and his reckless words and threats. He's not going to scare us, and he doesn't, or intimidate us. Putin's actions are a sign he's struggling. The sham referenda he carried out and this routine he put on, don't worry, it's not on there if you're looking, okay? The sham routine that he put on this morning that's showing the unity and, you know, as people holding hands together. Well, the United States is never going to recognize this. And quite frankly, the world's not going to recognize it either. He can't seize his neighbor's territory and get away with it. It's as simple as that. And they're going to stay the course. They're going to continue to provide military equipment so that Ukraine can defend itself and its territory and its freedom, including additional resources that the Congress is going to give me today of $13 billion more to help Ukrainians defend themselves and fight back. And we're fully prepared to defend. I want to say this again. America is fully prepared with our NATO allies to defend every single inch of NATO territory. Every single inch. So, Mr. Putin, don't misunderstand what I'm saying. Every inch. And I've been in close touch with our allies. We're announcing new sanctions today as well, that including new authorities to sanction anyone who provides political or economic support to Russia's fraudulent territorial claims. And I've been in close touch with our NATO allies who are united in our resolve to take on his aggression.
And I've obtained a rough transcript of what Putin said in a speech recently that I'm going to read aloud, since Western media usually doesn't allow people to hear both sides, which is important in any sort of conflict. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and the live show starts now.
The Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles. It's the Dream Rare Podcast, welcome to the show. The way to get the news at the desk or on the road. Let's go. God is great and success in our control. The world is crazy, but we get better from obstacles, yeah.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the Dream Rare Podcast. So I've obtained a rough transcript. It's not identical because he spoke for a while, but a rough transcript of what Vladimir Putin is saying, because so often we only hear slow Joe Biden and Zelensky. And whether you agree or disagree in any sort of conflict, whether it's with, a loved one, a family member, whatever, I think it's always important to hear both sides if you actually want to solve the conflict. So I am going to read aloud Putin's, I guess, response or rough response of what he's saying in his side of the story. Speaking of which, I want to hear Nancy Pelosi talk about Hurricane Ian. Here's Nancy Pelosi.
Disaster relief on some of it needed right away for Iran, but it's more will be needed.
Iran or Ian. I don't know. Before I talk about Zelensky or Putin, I try to be into self-accountability, self-awareness. So as a nation, regardless, once we'll talk about Putin, we'll talk about Zelensky, but regardless of what they're doing, what are we doing? Why is somebody like this running the House of Representatives?
Disaster relief on some of it needed right away for Iran, but it's more will be needed.
At least Zelensky can talk. He's an actor / comedian who's like not 100 years old. At least he could speak properly. I don't believe him all the time, but at least he can. We're being led by Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi. And the media is trying to tell us now that if you question your leaders, they're going to start playing the games that Ukraine's playing. Ukraine bans political parties, Russia's stealing some of the land. I understand it's escalating over there, but in America, they're going to start playing that game too, where it's like, oh, what is it, Russian propaganda to question Nancy Pelosi? Wait a second, they're going to start playing that game? They played that game since 2016, before I even thought of Russia. They're like, you must be Russian if you like Bernie over Hillary. You must be Russian if you like Donald Trump. Anything that disagrees with Democrats is Russian. They've been playing this game for 4 years. So now as the war escalates, I think they're going to start getting crazier and crazier. It's like if you make a joke about Zelensky or Biden, they're just going to assume you're like a Russian Putin propagandist or something. It's like, okay, are we allowed to disagree with the Afghanistan war? Does that make us a terrorist? Are we allowed to question, certain narratives in Libya? Does that mean you're best friends with Muammar Gaddafi? We're starting to lose our sovereignty here in America, and it's really creepy. But let's read Putin's side of the story real quick, because I just want to know what he's even saying. I have no idea. They banned RT. Most media doesn't even really report on it. So this guy's name is Konstantin Kizin, and I'm going off his word. I assume it seems pretty thorough. I'm going to, in good faith, assume that he's trying his best to accurately, summarize the speech. Konstantin Kizin. Okay, can you hear me? Sorry. Hey guys, I'm gonna read Putin's speech, and mysteriously I just disappear off the screen. But maybe I'll try to put it back in here. That was weird. He calls himself a satirist, co-host of Trigger Podcast, and a centrist Chad. So let me try to read it, and hopefully I don't disappear from the screen again. That was odd. All right, so I'm gonna go down it. Let me know if I disappear. He says, I wish every single person in the West would listen to Putin's speech. Obviously, that won't happen, so let me summarize as a professional translator for 10 plus years. He states, as he has done from the outset, what his intentions and complaints are in the plainest terms possible. Here's the thread. So apparently this is a rough translation of Putin's speech. Setting aside his brief comments on recent referendums, he spends most of his speech discussing the West. His primary complaint isn't NATO expansion, which only gets a cursory mention. The West is greedy and seeks to enslave and colonize other nations like Russia. The West uses the power of finance and technology to enforce its will on other nations, collects what he calls hegemon's tax. To this end, the West destabilizes countries, creates terrorist enclaves, and most of all, seeks to deprive other countries of sovereignty. It is his avarice and desire to preserve its power that is the reason for the hybrid war the collective West is waging on Russia. They want us to be a colony, said Putin. They don't want us to be free. They want Russians to be a mob of soulless slaves, direct quote. The rules-based order the West goes on about is nonsense. Who made these rules? Who agreed to them? Russia is an ancient country and civilization, and we will not play by these rigged rules. The West has no moral authority to challenge the referendums because it has violated the borders of other countries. Western elites are totalitarian, despotic, and apartheidistic. Direct quote. They are racist against Russia and other countries and nations. Russophobia is racism. They discriminate by calling them the civilized world. This is Putin, by the way, but not me. I'm reading a transcript if you're just joining. Let's see. Am I still there? Great. Okay. They colonized, started the global slave trade, genocided Native Americans, pillaged India and Africa, forced China to buy opium through the war. We, on the other hand, are proud that we led the anti-colonial movement that helped countries develop to reduce poverty and inequality. They are Russia-phobic. They hate us because we didn't allow our country to be pillaged by creating a strong centralized, emphasis on centralized, state based on Christianity, Islam, Judaism, and Buddhism. They have been trying to destabilize our country since the 17th century in the times of trouble. Eventually, they managed to get their hands on our riches at the end of the 20th century. They called us friends and partners while pumping out trillions of dollars. His irony game is very strong today. I don't know what that means. We remember this. We didn't forget. The West claims to bring freedom and democracy to other countries, but it's the exact opposite of the truth. The unipolar world is anti-democratic by its very nature. It is a lie. They use nuclear weapons, creating a president. They flattened German cities without any military need to do so. There was no need for this except to scare us and the rest of the world, Korea, Vietnam. To this day, they occupy Japan, South Korea, and Germany and other countries while cynically calling themselves allies. The West has surveillance over the leaders of the nations who swallow these insults like the slaves that they are, said Putin. That's a direct quote. He then talks about bioweapon research. Haven't heard about that in a while, and human experiments. Including the country that Zelensky's a part of. This is, the translation of the speech for the little weasel loser fact checkers who are watching the video. I'm just reading. The U.S. rules the world by the power of the fist. Any country which seeks to challenge Western hegemony becomes an enemy. Their neocolonialism is cloaked in lies like containment of Russia, China, and Iran. The concept of truth has been destroyed with fakes and extreme propaganda. Irony game still strong. You cannot feed your people with printed dollars and social media. You need food and energy. But Western elites have no desire to find a solution to the food and energy crisis they created. They solve the... you cannot feed your people with printed dollars and social media. Interesting. You need food and energy, but Western elites have no desire to find a solution to the food and energy crisis they created. That's a good line. They solved the problems at the start of the 20th century with World War I and U.S., established dominance over the world via the dollar as a result of World War II. In the 80s, they had another crisis they solved by plundering our country. Now they want to solve their problems by breaking Russia. Russia understands its responsibility to the international community and will do everything to cool the heads of these neo-colonials who are destined to fail. They're crazy. I want to speak to all Russian citizens. Do we want to replace mom and dad with parent 1 and parent 2? They invent genders and claim you can transition. Do we want this for our children? We have a different vision. They have abandoned religion and embraced Satanism. Direct quote from Putin. The world is going through a revolutionary transformation. A multipolar world offers nations freedom to develop as they wish and to make up the majority of the world. We have many like-minded friends in Western countries. We see and appreciate their support. They are forming liberation, anti-colonial movements as we speak. Direct quote. They will only grow. We are fighting for a fair world for our country. The idea of exceptionalism is criminal, and we must turn this shameful page. The breaking of the West's hegemony is inevitable. Emphasis on that. There is no going back. We will fight for our great historic Russia. Our values are love our fellow man, compassion, and mercy. The truth is with us. Russia is with us. End of speech. So this was a rough translation. Thank you, Constantine, for doing that, because it's really hard to find his speeches, and I doubt that they're interested in translating it. Fascinating stuff. I mean, on one hand, obviously, I'm not from Russia. I'm not Russian. I don't have like national Russian pride, but I mean, it seems as if the Western liberal world that they're pushing on us, they don't even like us. It's like you listen to the New Zealand Prime Minister. What's her name? Cheshire Cat or whatever? Jacinda Ardern. She looks like a psychopath. I mean, look at her face. She makes Rochelle Walensky look like the Dalai Lama. But she's talking about how freedom's important, but like internet, people speaking freely and questioning authority is like a huge threat. Like, this is the liberal democracy that they're pushing. They think it's a democracy when you ban 11 political parties. They think it's democracy when they lock you in your house. They think it's democracy to kick you out of an arena for not getting an mRNA injection. So that's not democracy. But if that is democracy, it doesn't seem like a great system, and it doesn't seem like a system where they actually want the people to be in power. Because on paper, they say that democracy is where the people decide and the people vote. But when the people decide against the elites that are claiming to be democratic, they freak out. They call you Russian, they lie about you, they hate on your name, they try to get you in trouble. So they're not really interested in people who respectfully disagree with them. They're interested in, like people are saying, soulless slaves and people who just march to the tune of what the Democrats and the democratic elites are doing on both sides. So, it's fascinating stuff. I'm not saying I have a horse in this race per se, because I know Russia, China, Iran, I don't believe these countries care about me. You know what I'm saying? It's not like I'm naive and like, oh man, Putin and Xi Jinping and Iran really cares about me. I'm sure they don't give a crap about me to a certain extent, but I do personally believe, and this is why they hate Republicans and libertarians in this country. What left-wingers don't understand, because they've been brainwashed by a lot of social narratives, is the media doesn't hate right-wingers because they're racist or libertarians because they're bad. If you look at a scale of power, Republicans and libertarians, although they don't seem to ever accomplish this, in theory, they believe in smaller government and personal liberty. If you're trying to create some sort of global world order, or you're trying to create a liberal world order, as they call it, or you're trying to create a country that has no state sovereignty, where you have different states who agree or different counties who agree, you need total control of everything. You need total power. So the biggest threat to somebody who wants total power over the country and perhaps the world are libertarians and conservatives, because they believe in individual sovereign rights and to have their own, way of governing. This is the same thing with Russia, China, Iran. I mean, I'm not, China, I think is, not your friend or anything, but as far as playing along to the global order, these are countries that don't tend to do it. And also countries without central banks or countries that are doing something else. I'm not saying I believe like Iran is the perfect government structure or anything, but at the end of the day, as a conservative / libertarian leaning person, I'm not going to call myself either of them because I don't like to be put in a box. I personally believe that Iran should be allowed to be Muslim. I think that Russia should be allowed to be Christian. I think that China can be China, as long as they're not overstepping and hurting other people. I think it's healthy for the world for everyone to be unique and different, because we're not all soulless slaves that come together under the guise of we're all going to follow the same, human leader that goes to the World Economic Forum every year and plots out the plan for the entire planet that they have to follow, and if you don't, you're going to get smeared by the media. I don't buy into that narrative. Doesn't mean I'm in love with Russia or China or anything, but this really is on the front, and I'm not saying that Russia and China have good intentions, because they probably don't. But at the end of the day, like, our liberal world order and the left wing, whatever you want to call them, and the right wing Zionists who parade around and pretend to be America firsters while they really do the bidding of a foreign country, they don't agree on much, but they do agree on foreign policy, because, the way that they're going, they want every country to be exactly like us. They can't stand the fact that Iran doesn't have OnlyFans accounts and drag queen story hour. They can't stand the fact that Cuba, although it's communist and not rich, they're not getting mRNA vaccines, so they got to do that. They can't stand the fact that Belarus didn't lock down hard enough. They can't stand the fact that, Putin is not allowing the Rainbow Mafia to take over the country. They can't stand the fact that China, although they are corrupt and communist and in many cases soulless and godless, they're not buying into this demasculizing, or however you say the word, men, younger kids. They're trying to get their younger boys strong, and they're not buying into this weak propaganda that we're beating our kids over the head with here. So I'm not saying I like these countries better than mine. I love America, but it's getting to a really creepy point. In America, you used to be able to vote for this person or this person. You used to be able to have disagreements. Here's how I think we should solve homeless. Here's how I think we should do foreign policy. And at a certain point, I think that was okay, although maybe it was always frowned upon. But now in our country, it's getting to the point where if you say the things that I'm saying, they'll accuse you of being Russian. I'm not from Russia. I've never been to Russia. I'm allowed to go to, probably not anymore. I don't think it's really a great place to go now because of the war. But it's like, there's millions of people who've traveled to Russia that have nothing to do with it. I haven't. I'm just being honest. It's just like, I have nothing to do with that country. I don't support them over us. I just think our allies and what we're doing, we're destroying our own country. Like he said in his speech, I thought this before he said it. We're destroying our own energy, creating our own problems, and then acting like we didn't see it coming. And I'm not even talking about the Nord Stream pipeline. I'm just talking about turning to wind energy, getting rid of nuclear energy, getting away from oil, attacking fossil fuels, but it takes coal in order to create electricity. Guys, it's not like these cars are just made with solar panels and you don't even need to charge them up. You charge them up. Where do you get the electricity from? It comes from coal, mostly coal. So it's like, it is a joke. And, here's Biden. He finally responded to the Nord Stream pipeline. And I guess he's blaming Russia and the intelligence community and stuff. It's I guess Russia destroyed their own pipeline or something in an area that we were floating around. Sure. Let's see what Biden says.
Take on his aggression. I thank you all very much. You also asked me earlier about the pipeline. And let me say this. It was a deliberate act of sabotage. And now the Russians are pumping out disinformation and lies. We're going to work with our allies to get to the bottom of precisely what happened. And at my direction, I've already begun to help our allies enhance the protection of this critical infrastructure. And at the appropriate moment when things calm down, we're going to be sending divers down to find out exactly what happened. We don't know that yet exactly, but we're not, just don't listen to what Putin is saying. What he's saying we know is not true.
What's so creepy about the Democrats and people like Joe Biden is when they get unpopular, they just turn into authoritarians. Like, for instance, on YouTube, Joe Biden was very unpopular. There were up likes and down likes, and almost all his videos were down liked. Anytime Big Pharma ran a propaganda ad, it was down liked, like 20-1. The ratio was enormous. Like, people didn't like it. And then all of a sudden YouTube says, oh, we're standing up for small creators. We're going to take away the down likes. Well, isn't that convenient for Joe Biden, this popular president that nobody seems to like, and everybody can see that the downvotes are enormous? Oh, now you can't even see. So it's like, when in a democracy, you're supposed to be able to disagree and have your voice heard. But in this fake democracy, this liberal rainbow world order, there is no democracy. The second you disagree with Joe Biden or Big Pharma, they take away your right to speak about it. The second you question Big Pharma, they kick you off social media. The second that you support Bernie Sanders over Hillary Clinton, they call you Russian. They call you Russian disinformation. Millions of people liked Bernie Sanders more than Hillary Clinton because they gravitated towards the energy and somewhat authenticity at the time of Bernie Sanders. Say what you want about Bernie, call him a socialist, call him a liar. I think he's both. But at the time, he had way more authentic, just like Donald Trump did in 2016. People liked Bernie because he was more authentic than Hillary. At least people perceived it that way. Not because they're working with Russia. A very small, probably under 1% even knows anything about Russia when it came to their decision, Bernie over Hillary. Same thing with Trump supporters. Under 1% by far of Trump supporters like Trump because of Russia. It has nothing to do with Russia. They just like his rhetoric and like his policies. I mean, this is what is so crazy. Excuse me, sorry. This is what is so crazy about Democrats. And this is why they're disingenuous. Like, if you were just to call the Nord Stream, oh, that's Russian disinformation, and that's the first time you use that and you're always telling the truth about it, it's like, yeah, maybe it is Russian disinformation. You call everything Russian disinformation. And when people disagree with you, you just demonize them and treat them like garbage. Like when Donald Trump ran for office, let's just be 100% objective right here, okay? Donald Trump says build a wall. I know multiple people, including a lot of Hispanics, who like Donald Trump because they thought there needed to be a wall because they're very familiar with border security, especially people in the South, but even people all over the country. They could see the change and they could see that it's not secure. So if you're being objective, say I'm not, but say I was like, I wanted to vote the other way, and as an honest person, I'd be like, okay, I think this candidate's better, but I understand why they're voting for this candidate. I understand. It's like he has a different policy when it comes to foreign policy. He has a different policy when it comes to the wall, or at least he says he's going to. So I get why people like that. I don't have to agree with it, but I get it. That's not what they do at all. They just say, oh, that's Russian. You're like, no, I want to build a wall and you don't want to build a wall. I want lower taxes and you want higher taxes. I want Trump to try to get along with these countries. You want to go to war with them. Like, there's reasons that, I got screwed over by Obamacare individual mandate and Donald Trump says he's going to fix it. Even if he doesn't, he says he's going to, so this is what an honest person would do. Here's the thing. We know the Democrats aren't honest. The question is, how long are they going to do this grift and how long are they going to lie about it and how far are they going to push it? They operate like power-hungry psychopaths where it's like, if anybody gets in my way, you're a Russian, you're bad, you're a racist, you're a terrorist, you're evil, and you need to be removed from my site. And it's like, that's not democracy. You know, regardless of the last election, how many people voted for Donald Trump? 80 something million? You know what I'm saying? That's a lot of people. A lot of people didn't vote that way because Putin told them to. They saw crime rise in their cities and they didn't like it. They saw that the Democrats were the greater of two evil when it came to mandates. You know, I could list 50 things and tell you maybe they're pro-life. You know, everybody has their own thing that they care about. You don't have to agree. Even if you're pro-choice, pro-abortion, whatever, at least just be fair about it, right? Like, I understand. I am annoyed by Donald Trump for certain reasons, but I also give him credit where it's due, and I understand some people don't agree with me. That's fine. You know, I don't have to like it. I don't have to think it's right, but I'm not going to just be like, oh, everybody who likes Donald Trump now, they like him because they want mRNA vaccines really bad. Like, that's not true. You know what I'm saying? People think he did a better job because he pretty much did. So it's like they're not honest about any of this stuff, and it's really, really creepy. So when it comes to what Putin's saying, it's a very, and for somebody who loves America more than Russia, it's a very dangerous precedent when your leaders are crappier than the leaders they're fighting. I'm not saying Putin's like a better person, but listen to a speech of Joe Biden. I mean, honestly, if Joe Biden spoke at a conference with 100 different people, like, you know, he would be like the worst one there. It's like he doesn't even belong on a stage. He doesn't belong at a company. The dude belongs in a nursing home, you know, and that's our leader. And I'm supposed to say that's great. Oh, yeah, this is what the rest of the world wants. It doesn't even work here. It's not even working well here. Crime is rising in our major cities. Things are getting more affordable. The media is lying about everything, and they're telling you that it's inflation's not going to happen. It's a conspiracy. Well, no, it's happening. Well, here's why it's good. I mean, our country is an absolute joke right now. And I'm not ungrateful. I like America, but to say that we should want this for Russia and Iran, like they need drag queen story hour, you know, trans surgeries on little kids. They need Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi type leaders. Like, I don't know. As somebody who loves America, it's like, nah, I don't think this way of ruling isn't even working here. So why would I want to spread it to Russia? That doesn't mean I like Russia more than America. It means it's not working. Go to San Francisco. It's not working. Democrats are not working. And it's deeper than just Democrats, but a lot of it is literally just Democrats. I mean, they don't know how to run a city. They don't know how to solve homelessness. They don't know how to support small businesses. They don't know how to treat people with respect, yet be tough on crime. They don't know how to do anything, so San Francisco sucks. LA sucks now. You know, it's not working in our country. Why would I want to spread it to another country? Doesn't mean I like Iran or I like Russia. I actually don't want to live in either place, and I've never been, and I don't care enough to go there. But if I did act like I was going to free the Iranian women, I'd probably try to move there and understand the culture first rather than sit in a computer in America as it's deteriorating and telling Iran that they should be less Muslim and more gay or something. Like, I don't know. It's not that I hate anybody. It's just the facts. And, you know, I'm going to say something that'll be deemed controversial, but I don't care because I can't sugarcoat things. In a city, if you watch the news, everybody notices something about crime, and not all crime, but there are certain statistics and certain realities that everybody knows whether they talk about it or not. For example, I'm going to start with something basic. Most violent crime are committed by men, right? Women are committing a very small percentage of murders and violent crime. Why is that? I'm not really sure, but in order to figure it out, we could talk about it. Is it because men have testosterone? Is it because men are depressed or something and, you know, the family unit's messed up? I'm not sure, but it is statistically factual to say that a majority of violent crimes are men. And doesn't make you a sexist to notice that, right? I'm going to start simple and then I'm going to get more and more controversial, okay? Because I don't have any hate in my heart. And I'm not telling people to judge others, and I'm not telling people to blame someone for the net sum of, you know, their group, whether it's gender, race, religion, or anything. But if we start with that, everybody can see that men are creating more crime, and I'm not quite sure why it is, but it's true. Maybe it's just because men are more physical and more, jacked up with testosterone. I'm not sure. But it's true, and everybody knows it. And everybody knows it doesn't make you sexist to realize that men are creating statistically most crime. That's true. Now it's up to you to acknowledge it and try to figure out why. Or maybe you can ignore it, but you can't call me a sexist for noticing that. Then you go to certain communities and you can see that like 2 to 7% of that community, I'm not talking about the country, but the community is committing like in some cases 50 to like 90% of the violent crime and murder, right? And then it's like, okay, why is that happening? There's everybody, I'm not gonna say everybody, but most people acknowledge that it is happening. If you talk to the right wing, they'll say it's a lack of fathers, you know? Some people will say it's a drug crisis. Some people will say it's the government, they're not taking care, or it's racism. Everybody has a theory of why it's happening. Most people will acknowledge that it is happening. Left-wingers will say it's the government's fault and it's history's fault. The right-wingers will say pull yourself up by your own bootstraps and, you know, get God and a family unit back in the household. But it doesn't make you a racist to notice that there's certain statistical things going on when it comes to crime in certain areas, right? We all know that. We all know that with sex or gender, and we all know that with ethnicity. Same with the border. It's like, what are a majority of people coming across the border? Mostly Hispanic. It doesn't mean all Hispanic people are bad and all Hispanic people aren't illegal, but there are a lot at the border. And there's also like random Haitians and stuff, but you get what I'm saying. Now I'm going to go to something that nobody will talk about, right? You think what I just said was controversial. I'm about to take that same logic that you all agree is not hateful at all, and I'm going to take it to a world stage. What does Zelensky have in common with the biggest donor in the Democratic Party, the biggest donor in the Republican Party, and most CEO executives who own the shell corporation who controls most of the media? What do they all have in common? What if it was a small percentage of the population that was responsible for a way higher percentage than even the crime statistics that Republicans talk about? What if that happened? People will call you bad names. It doesn't mean I think everybody of that group or everybody that fits into that Venn diagram is a bad person. Of course not. I would never, I'm not the net sum of my gender. I'm not responsible for other people's crimes because I'm a guy, and I'm not saying that. But at the end of the day, what I am saying is if you have a small percentage doing like 90-something% of something, at a certain point for other things, you would notice that pattern and try to ask yourself why, not to blame everyone else, but wonder why that is. But when it comes to this pattern, nobody's really curious about it, because you can be curious, because if you are curious about it, they call you a name, they shut you out, they'll shut down your PayPal and your Venmo, and the whole world comes down on you to make sure that you know that you made a boo-boo and you should never go there again. Right-wingers won't talk about it and left-wingers won't talk about it. It's fascinating, fascinating stuff. So that's all I'm going to say. I'm not blaming anybody. I have no hate in my heart. It's like I wouldn't blame all of Russia for Putin. I wouldn't blame all of Ukraine for Zelensky. I wouldn't blame America for Biden. I wouldn't blame men for committing most crime. And I wouldn't blame other ethnicities for crime statistics too. But on a world scale, when you start to really crack down who's doing what, you're going to find similar patterns in different areas. And the more you don't think about it, it's fine. I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't think if you think about it, it's really going to solve too much either. It's just, I have thought about it a lot. I have done a lot of research, and I have come to conclusions where I can't predict everything, but I kind of do know why certain things are happening. And I also know why both parties won't talk about it. And I know why it's taboo. And I also know it's like, if we don't talk about it and it is taboo, then it's just, we'll never get to the bottom of it. It's the same thing as like saying stop Asian hate is because of Trump supporters. I'm not saying Trump supporters are always innocent. I'm not saying white people that wear MAGA hats or black people that wear MAGA hats are completely innocent in their whole lives. But what I'm saying is Asians in San Francisco aren't getting beat up by, MAGA country, Trump supporters like white or black dudes in MAGA hats. That's not what's happening in San Francisco. So if we want to stop Asian hate and we're just broadly, blaming like Republicans, it's not going to solve it, because that's not what's actually happening. Same on a world scale. That's not what's happening. And there's a reason certain patterns exist, and there's a reason they'll continue to exist. And there's a reason 4 years of a Republican president ends in a lockdown. It's not because he made a mistake or he got fooled. It's because there's a certain, pattern going on in the world, and certain wars and certain media people that want war. And if you're against war, they destroy your character. Just like, as flawed as Donald Trump is, I still believe, maybe I'm naive, but I believe it. I do believe that he was a great, I would say the best in my lifetime, perhaps ever, maybe not ever, but the best in my lifetime was Donald Trump at easing all tensions, right? I don't like Iran, but I'm not going to fight him right now. I don't like, Russia and North Korea, but I'm not going to fight him right now. Trump did a great job of appeasing Israel, appeasing Saudi Arabia, appeasing, not really like doing anything for Iran or Russia, but not getting everybody to fight each other. You know what I'm saying? Like, Trump did a great job of getting everybody to just chill a little bit. And that's why the media hated him, right? I believe one of the reasons, there's a few other reasons, anybody that doesn't want war, the media will push you towards war. Anybody that says a certain thing, the media will destroy you, whether you're Nick Cannon or Whoopi Goldberg or Owen Benjamin or something. If you go there, it doesn't matter if you're left wing or right wing, you have to shut up. You need to fight a war. You need to make your kids this way. Anybody who cracks one of the 15 things that they care about, they destroy your whole life. Jordan Peterson and Andrew Tate are two men who are very flawed. They're not perfect men at all. But Andrew Tate and Jordan Peterson have one thing in common, and that's why the media hates them. Although they're very different, and they're very, very different energy, very different personality. Andrew Tate and, Jordan Peterson didn't tell men to dress up as women and hate themselves. They told men to work hard and, that don't let these people treat you like garbage because of your gender. And, that life is about not complaining and playing the victim, but life is about becoming a man and making something of yourself. So the media cracks down on them. If you're telling men to not be pathetic, the media hates you. If you don't want to start a war, the media hates you. If you want to secure the border, the media hates you. And there's reasons that the media hates you for this. Yes, they're corrupt. Yeah, but like I'm saying with other patterns, if you go deeper, you can really dissect why this is happening on a global scale. Who's benefiting from these wars? What do they want? Why would people be doing this? Why do people hate people in America so much? Why do they hate, Russians so much? There's got to be a reason, right? Like, why do these people hate these people so much? I'm not a hateful person. I don't look at any race, religion, gender and say I hate you. I'm just more like analytical. I'm like, why is this happening? But that's all I'm going to say for today is the deeper you go and the more you kind of learn, there's reasons for everything. And just sticking your head in the sand and saying, I don't, recognize patterns is just not going to really do much. I don't care what people do, but it's like, if you do, I'm just going to give examples. If you do sports gambling, right? There's something called like DraftKings and FanDuel, and there's it's like you can bet on fantasy, right? In these worlds, I don't talk about this stuff because I'm not promoting. I'm saying this as a disclaimer because they'll be like, oh, like if you're over 18, this is not telling people to do it. I'm just analyzing how like professional gamblers work because I study this type of stuff and I'm interested in. So I'm not promoting gambling and you have to be a certain age, but I'm just saying on these betting apps, if you're just doing random stuff and saying, I don't notice patterns, I don't notice anything, I'm just going to pick my favorite players, you're not going to win very much. The smartest people who are making the most money on DraftKings and FanDuel and whatever betting app that you use when they're playing fantasy, they're studying patterns. They have spreadsheets. They're math geniuses. That's how they're so good. Same with chess, Magnus Carlsen or whoever, they're not just, oh, I don't notice patterns because I don't want to see him. It's like, no, that's how you become like amazing at anything. That's how you learn the most. It's like, how do you know who the New York Times is or the Washington Post? How do you figure out like what these people are about? They're left wing, by studying it and noticing patterns. And then you add it up in your head and then you come to the conclusion, oh, this is who Donald Trump is. Oh, this is who Joe Biden is. This is who the Democrats are. That's just the reality of anything in this world. If you play football, you don't say, I don't notice patterns. I don't want to seem mean. I don't want to stereotype this team. You study their defense for weeks and you notice patterns, and that gives you a slight edge. It's the same thing with news analysis. It's the same thing with crime. It's the same thing with anything. They could call it what it is, but it doesn't make you a bad person to notice patterns, whatever those patterns may be. If those patterns go against my race, my gender, my religion, I don't care. I'm not going to call you an anti-Christophobe and an anti-Caucasian. Like, these words mean nothing to me. These are low IQ, stupid, made up, like terms to try to dumb down the population so they don't recognize patterns and realize what's going on. And similar to what people are explaining on a world scale, it's not to free us all. If I thought this, like the liberal gay world order was going to take over Russia, China, and Iran, and then Jews and Christians and Muslims were going to sing Hava Nagila and dance in a circle, then I'd be like, sure, let the liberal gay world order take over Russia, China, and Iran. Not that I have any say in it, not that my opinion even matters. I have no power in this situation. But if I thought that was the case, I'd be like, great, I would love everybody to get along and be happy. But I don't see that as the case. I see the liberal rainbow world order, slash whatever the Republicans pretend that they're doing. I see that ending in, slavery for everybody. I see that ending in everybody being miserable, everybody suffering, everybody being entrapped in this like grid of a system that doesn't tap into reality. It doesn't tap into nature and natural things that make people happy, regardless of what ethnicity you were born into and had no say in. You were just born. It's not like anybody asked to be born. It's just like, oh, this is who I am. That's why you can't really hate anybody. But in general, it's not going to work. So, I don't understand why people are so afraid to talk about stuff, or why it's like this idea of liberal rainbow world order unity. There is no unity when you're not allowed to disagree. It's a groupthink thing. They bring every race and culture together, and then they wash your culture away. If you're black, I don't know if you're really from Africa. Maybe you're Native American and they're lying. I'm not sure, but I think it would be interesting if you find out your own heritage, because if you don't determine who you are, they're going to lie to you about it. They're going to manipulate your skin color to try to use you. So, I respect black activists who are not burning down neighborhoods, but instead are trying to dive into who they really are, because it's okay to be different. But you can be in America. Someone said you're not black. Obviously I'm not. I didn't say I was, but I'm just saying it's okay to say I'm an American citizen, I'm this, maybe I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, whatever. But also, don't let someone else define who you are. Figure it out on your own. And that goes for everybody, because at this point, they're talking about diversifying Europe and America, but China's not getting diversified. Africa's not really getting very diversified. The Asian world's not getting very diversified. Russia's not very diverse. So if America and Europe gets diversified, but nobody else does it, it's the same thing as us cutting out our energy to fight climate change. And then 10 years later, climate change, oh, we didn't do it. It's like, yeah, because on a global scale, if we're the only ones doing it, it's not going to, don't you need India and China to play? If they're not playing along and we cut out our own energy, you're not even going to change the degree of temperature. And then we're just going to have shitty energy. And then with less energy, we have less power. And with less power, these countries can take over our country if we don't have any economic power. So it's the same metaphor. It's like it doesn't work to just cut your own energy out when the rest of the world's not following. And the same thing with diversifying Europe and America. Okay, let's diversify. Everywhere's not diversifying. And what does that even mean to be diverse if you're not even allowed to disagree? If you're an immigrant from Iran, but you're not allowed to be a Trump supporter, they call you a terrorist. How is this a good system? Well, you're black and you're from Senegal, but you vote Republican, so the media hates you. This is not fun diversity, to not be able to say anything. Everything's racist, everything's sexist. You can't question the Rainbow Mafia. You can't question Democrats. You can't speak the truth on social media. So what are we diversifying? It's not thought. We're diversifying. Here's a group of people, throw you all together. Sorry about that. I didn't mean to hit that. Throw you all together, take away your religion, take away your culture, take away your identity, take away your family unit, take away any ounce of nationalism that you have, because unfortunately that's the only thing that could really unite us in this country. We don't have that much in common besides that. Take all that away, and now what is this? This is not diverse, Diversity, good diversity is when we have good food, good music, people get along, but there's some sort of respect. It's like a city like San Francisco and Los Angeles are only cool if it doesn't smell like crap. If it smells like shit, it's not cool anymore. If crime is running rampant and you can't walk down the street without, risking a machete attack by a crackhead in your neighborhood, it's not fun anymore. It's like LA, the idea of diversifying is only fun if there's low crime and a lot of opportunity. Once you take away the opportunity and the safety, it's not fun anymore. So, our whole ideology is just a joke right now. And half of the reason it's a joke, I say this often, and I'll get to comments in a second, is because the left wing pushes it down the hill and the right wing just chases it down the hill. And I know people don't want to hear that, but the more you learn, the more you research, the more you study history, the more you realize how they lied about history just like they're lying now, the more you realize this stuff, the more you realize people in the Republican Party are really just conserving space. They're not conserving anything. They're not conserving culture or anything. They're just conserving space and donor money. They're just in the way, pretty much. They're, like false hope, false little clownies. So, because it's like you get to the core of like, okay, this is happening. So what's your response? Oh, they don't have a response. Like, this is happening and they're taking this stuff away and calling everything racist. So you're calling them like, stop using the word racist. And I'm not saying to be mean. Don't hate people because of their skin color. Don't be what you think that word means, but stop using that word, because if you have a bunch of Asians that want to live in an Asian area, it doesn't make them racist. Maybe it's what they want. Maybe that's their freedom. They have the freedom to be diverse, and that's what they want. Maybe Russia wants to not be, wrapped in a rainbow flag and transitioning kids. That's what they want. That's, real diversity means you have different countries. Real diversity means you go to Russia, it's different. You go to China, it's different. You might not like it, but it's different. You go to Mexico, it's different. You go to France, it's different. If everything turns into each other, there's no diversity. That's the trick. So the people claiming that they love diversity the most are the ones who are erasing it from the world. If you don't have a specific identity and you're just, plant number 55 or human number 4,557,000 in a communist society, that's not diverse. And that's what they're doing to Europe, and that's what they're doing to America, and honestly that's what they're doing to most of the world. And anybody who provides any sort of resistance, like the Muslim world or spontaneous leaders every now and then, they will be the ones who get hammered down the most and hated the most by the media. Who's doing this in the media? Why? These are questions that I'm sure a lot of people have done research. I have a smart audience, but it's just true. So that's all I wanted to say, because I do believe in true diversity. I'm not somebody who wants to be a worker bee. Like, I got to be like everyone else. No, I like to be spontaneous. I like to be free to be myself. I don't want to be the net sum of my gender, my race. I like real diversity, where you can go to Idaho and it's different than Texas, and you can go to California and it's different than Florida. If you let the federal government take over Idaho and Texas and turn it into the politics of California, it's not very diverse anymore, is it? So the biggest trick of the left is saying that they love diversity, and the right doesn't know how to counter it. And the reality is they're wiping diversity away. And once they mix everybody together and get everybody fighting over race, over gender, fight, the second you look up from the fight, you're fighting against this person, you're fighting against the Democrats. The second you look up, there's going to be no diversity, because every person, whether you're a Muslim immigrant, whether you're a Christian who's been here since the 1800s, whether your family moved from Mexico, whether you're a Democrat or Republican, you're going to be under the same vaccine passport or the same, speech laws. It's going to be, the opposite of diversity. It's going to be a monopoly on what I would consider human enslavement, where, you're not living in a free society anymore. So I pray that people wake up. And when it comes to Zelensky, Putin, and Biden, I'll say this. Biden is an absolute joke of a leader, and that doesn't make me anti-America or pro-Russia to say that. He's a clown, he's a joke, he's pathetic, and, when it comes to foreign policy, Trump did a great job. That's one of the few things that he did that was great. Unfortunately, there's nothing to show for it, because our country just flops back and forth every 4 years. So who's going to trust us? Anybody that maybe thought about trusting Trump a couple of years ago, who would trust America even if Trump got back into office and did a good job? Who trusts America when 4 years, you're 4 years away from Gavin Newsom or Nancy Pelosi? I mean, our country has, no country probably trusts us anymore. The only countries that do are the ones that are just, controlled by us and they have no other choice, which I guess plays into our favor, because if everybody wasn't controlled by us in our financial system, then they probably wouldn't trust us. Why would they? So I guess that plays in our favor, but Biden's a joke. Zelensky is a good comedian and good actor. I mean, he definitely is a good speaker. I'm like starting to listen. I'm like, that was good. But he's like a money leech on America. He's just leeching money out of America for a proxy war against Russia. Because of him and because of Democrats who are running our foreign policy, they could have easily tried to strike some sort of deal. But I get it. They're willing to sacrifice everything to make sure Russia doesn't take over a part of Ukraine that at one point was probably Russia and is filled with millions of Russians who would vote for Russia. Like, you have to understand, when it comes to Ukraine, there's a pro-Russia leader that probably could have beat Zelensky in the next election. I mean, he banned that political party, so now people can't vote for that party. And I'm sure that area that Putin's annexing is filled with a majority of people who actually support it because they're pro-Russia. So we could have just been like, hey, you can have that peace. It's not ideal, but, you know, don't go any further. Or you could start a whole war over it. And that's what we did. It's like we egged on Russia. Russia egged us on. We funded, weapons to Ukraine for years, even though we probably said we wouldn't, but maybe we didn't. He invaded. We gave Zelensky money, and people like Boris Johnson told Zelensky, don't compromise. Early on, Putin, if you would have gave Putin one thing, he would have been like, all right, that's fine. That's all I want. We didn't want to compromise. We're not allowing there to be any sort of peace deals. There's no, like, this war is going to go on forever, and Zelensky is going to suck America dry. And there's another country that sucks America dry every year that people don't talk about, and they have something in common with Zelensky too. Fascinating stuff. I'm sure it's just a coincidence, even though it's statistically impossible to be this big of a coincidence. So, you know, I guess that's our new country now. We're going to be fighting Russia until we can turn them into a gayer version of Russia. I don't know. I guess that's what they need to be. They need OnlyFans accounts, rainbow flags, transitioning kids or something like that. Like, and then you got right wingers that are like, yeah, like, guys, we don't even have control over our own country. I get it's not as simple as that. I understand you have to pick allies and fight wars sometimes, but you know, I don't support Russia. I don't support Ukraine. I don't really have a horse in this race. I don't support Iran or China. These are not my countries. I don't root for them to be amazing. Like, I don't root for them to get more powerful than us. I hope we stay powerful. But this idea that I'm pro-Russia or pro-China or pro-Iran, if I don't want to bring third wave feminism and rainbow mafia to come, you know, censor them, our country is, in my opinion, less godly than some of these other countries. Because if you're covering up women for a godly reason, although it's not my religion, but if you're doing it for a godly reason, is that better or worse than covering up millions of women for Fauci, Big Pharma, and Democrats who are taking money from Big Pharma? You know, we're the equivalent to Islam, except for Big Pharma. Like, Islam believes in Allah. We believe in Big Pharma. You know what I'm saying? If you question Allah, you're in trouble in Iran. If you question Big Pharma in America, you're in trouble. You know, if you question a foreign country in America, you're in trouble. So our country is the Muslim equivalent, except our Allah is Big Pharma. You think that's better than Islam? You're out of your mind. You know, I'll take Islam over Big Pharma, you know, hell, lockdowns, forced masking on women, wearing a made in China cloth diaper mask that smells like crap. That's, you know, that's freedom for women. That's what Iran needs. They need to take off their burqa and put on a made in China diaper on their face so they can go into a doctor's appointment. And like, our country's a joke. So it's just shocking to me that conservatives think that our culture is worth exporting at this point. I'm not self-hating. I love our country, but you know, this is why nothing ever changes, because conservatives get duped every 10 years. Oh, the war on terror. Oh, go fight bin Laden. Oh, go fight Iran. And people take it hook, line, and sinker. It's like, this is why our country keeps deteriorating. So doesn't make me pro-Muslim or anything, or pro, I meant to say pro-Iran. It doesn't make me pro-Russia. I'm pro-America, but I believe to change our country or to change the world, we need to change our country. It's like the Lizzo thing. Lizzo's playing some 200-year-old flute, you know, just being absolutely large and playing flute. Everyone's complaining. I think it's a perfect representation of America. Lizzo playing James Madison's flute or whoever's flute that is. That's what America is now. I mean, is that not it? That's perfect. It's exactly who we are. That's why wouldn't she play his flute, right? That's America now. And it's not like it's only been recently. America's been doing weird stuff for 40 years, and it's like if your body's sick, sometimes it shows you, here's a symptom. I'm not showing you this because I hate you. I'm showing you this because I love you, and you need to know something's wrong with you, so they keep showing you symptoms until you figure it out. That's what Lizzo is, and that's what Joe Biden is, and that's what Nancy Pelosi is. This isn't the first time America's been corrupt. It's been corrupt for decades now, and it's been getting worse and worse and worse on a scale in our food and a lot of different and Big Pharma. And nobody wanted to care about it. So the symptoms are Joe Biden, Nancy Pelosi, Lizzo. Don't get mad at Lizzo. Don't get mad at just even Joe Biden. Figure out why they're here in the first place, because Joe Biden can't just pop up out of nowhere. They are, our body is America. That's your body telling you something's wrong. And it's easy to think, America, all the bad stuff started with Lizzo. No, Lizzo, like, it's not Lizzo's fault. You know, I'm not saying you gotta love her, but it's not her fault. She's like end stage what they've been doing for 40 years. So if you just attack Lizzo, you're not getting to the core of it. Even Biden. I mean, call out Biden, but if you're attacking Biden, like getting rid of him, and we put back in Trump, it's going to solve it. No, it's not. But you could pretend like it will if you want to, but, you know, and left-wingers attacking Trump. Well, if we get rid of Trump, it's going to be fine. No. You guys claim to hate Russia so much, and then the first person, it was like a openly transgender, one of the first ones at a military position, was selling our health records to China, to Russia. You guys, you know, left wingers claim to hate Russia so much. Oh, you guys are transphobes. We hate Russia. Okay, then why is someone selling our health stuff? I would never do that. You lie for 4 years and call everyone pro-Russia. You think I would ever give health records to a foreign country? Of course not. That's treasonous. I would never do that. But that's what someone did in the military that happened to be trans. Interesting. Someone said, we don't teach self-discipline or accountability that creates a true balance. Yeah, there's a lot of things we don't teach in this country. Appreciate everybody. God bless you guys. And I'll stay for 3 minutes. We'll see what you guys are talking about, and then I'm out. Thanks for watching. Thank you, everybody who saw my Fact Checking the Fact Checkers documentary. And I have a few things coming up. I have a new song and music video that'll be out in a few weeks with Bryce and Gray. I'm really excited about it. I did that mini documentary. I'm going to do little stuff like that. And for those, real quick, and I'm going to look, let's see some of your comments. Say anything you guys want about anything, and I'm going to try to pick a few before I leave. But until then, I'm going to try to put something on the screen. Maybe it's going to freeze and not let me. But my shop is dreamrare.com. I'm just going to show you real quick. And then maybe I can't. I don't know. It's not on there. But dreamrare.com is my shop. And if you're interested, I have a 10% off sale for the next week. And I think it's promo code thank you. It's thank you, space between thank you. And it's all capital. So you can get 10%. Someone said the Fact Checker documentary was fire. Appreciate it. I mean, it's the best production I can do. I'm not professional, but I'm good enough. I just wanted to historically document what's going on. So at least now there's proof that they did it. They might never correct themselves. They might be corrupt till ever, but I do like to document things historically. Someone said, let Kid Rock play the flute. He probably can't even play the flute, but maybe. Let's see. Someone said NATO doesn't want the war in Ukraine to end. There's huge fortunes to be made. They will fight until the last Ukrainian, said Roger Waters. Roger Waters, we don't agree on everything, but I think he's spot on with Ukraine. I mean, both sides are going to die. Both sides are going to sacrifice, and they're both sacrificing for what? At the end of the day, if your country's really divided, I understand you don't want to lose part of your country. I get it, but it's like for America, we're going to lose hundreds of billions of dollars. And they don't care about this money, but what people don't understand is, and I think people on my page understand, but if you're printing money, there's going to be inflation or some sort of balance. Like if it were so easy to just print money and give out money, let's just make everyone in the world rich, right? Let's just give everyone money. It doesn't work that way. Everyone knows it doesn't work that way. So when it comes to $6 trillion for COVID, Build Back Better, billions of dollars, trillions of dollars, tens of billions, hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, you're paying for that. You know, your kids are paying for that, whatever. You know, you're broke, you can't afford gas. Like all these left-wingers that live in the city, they're crying about how affordable stuff is. Every time they send tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, you're paying for it over time. The pandemic shutdown, you're paying for it. So the irony is a lot of, not all, because there's a lot of rich elite liberals, but a lot of the kids who are liberals, like some of them come from rich families, and you know that's true. But a lot of them are struggling in major cities, and they're like, I can't afford anything. It's because of the corrupt Republicans. Like, how do you think the financial system works? They're printing money, sending it to a foreign country. Should we just send money to every country then? Make every country rich if it's that easy? Of course it's not that easy. So, pretty wild. Someone said, I want Anomaly to become someone important in a leadership position that will help initiate these good changes he talks about. Well, I'm going to end on this note because I want to keep it under an hour. Appreciate you. At the end of the day, I have to lead my own life, right? I can't lead the whole world or lead the country if I can't even lead myself. So I have goals for myself. I have to accomplish a few goals, get stuff done, and then maybe I could go into a bigger position. But honestly, it's miserable. I mean, sometimes it's beneficial to kind of be a lone wolf because in this day and age, you know, a lot of people are ruthless. The media is ruthless. Politicians are ruthless. Like, these people have no soul, no spirit, and you really got to decide what you want and how, you know, how to accomplish it. But my goal right now is changing the media, changing the narrative. There's trillions of dollars going into controlling people's minds because what you buy, who you vote for, they're spending tens of billions of dollars every election cycle just to get you to vote a certain way. So you have to understand, even bigger than politics is media control. And when they're lying all the time, I try to tell the truth, and I think it has a bigger impact than politics. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. God bless you. StayInTouchWithMe.com is my free email list. Sign up if you haven't. I sent an email out earlier this week. Thanks for checking it. And I'll be back very soon. Let me know your comments. I'll try to go through them after this. And I'll do a show tomorrow probably. Have a good day. Hope you enjoyed today's